Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the AMLET podcast. And we are here with episode 2. We're continuing with the Navajo Creation Story, and we are entering the second world. Last time, we left the first world after harmony had been broken down. Jealousy and conflict spread among the air spirit people, and because balance had been lost, they were forced to leave the world behind. As we continue into the second world, make note that creation is not yet finished. Unlike many creation stories where the world is completed in one single act, the Navajo creation story presents creation as a journey. Each new world becomes an opportunity to learn how humanity failed to understand in the previous world. So, unfortunately, the air spirit people haven't learned their lesson just yet. As we read today, I'd like you to ponder the following question: what happens when someone betrays another person's hospitality? This question is at the heart of this journey in the second world. So be sure to have your reading open and take notes where you think most appropriate. Let's start. First woman, first man, the great coyote who was formed from the water, and the coyote first angry, followed by all the others, climbed up from the dark wood to the second, or blue, world. Notice that the second world begins almost immediately with movement and growth. The people journey from one world into another, each teaching something new about how people should live, which is a key importance for us to reread the Navajo creation story in a course like this. There's very little idealistic paradise to be found here. This is important because it reflects a worldview where wisdom is acquired, not inherent. Wisdom sometimes, as we know all too well, is gained through failure. Read with me further in the second world. After arriving to the second world, the insect people sent scouts, which were plain locusts, to see if they could find anyone in the area. The scouts were first sent to the east, and after 2 days they returned and had not found anyone or anything yet. The scouts were then sent south to explore, and they were once again not able to find anyone or anything. The scouts were sent on 2 more trips, and after they had returned from their 4th trip, the camp of the air spirit people was visited by the swallow people. So there's a lot going on here in this section of the second world. So once again, we see the importance of the 4 directions. Decisively, the scouts first travel through east, then south, then west, then north. This order matters because exploration follows a sacred path in Navajo culture. By now, we're beginning to recognize the importance of storytelling's repetition for the Navajo because this pattern offers structure and reminds readers that harmony depends upon order. Another nifty detail is that the air spirit people don't immediately assume that the land belongs to them. Instead, they send scouts to observe and investigate. Only afterward do they encounter the people already living there. Newcomers are entering someone else's home. Let's continue reading in the second world. They found a number of people already living there: bluebirds, blue hawks, blue jays, blue herons, and all the blue furred beings. The powerful swallow people lived there also. They lived in blue houses scattered across a broad blue plain. The houses were cone-shaped and they were tapered towards the top. The swallow people said to the air spirit people, "You are welcome here among us." The swallow people and the air spirit people then treated each other like they were all members of a single tribe. And for 23 days, they all lived together in harmony. This scene to me is filled with a lot of generosity. The Swallow people welcome strangers, invite them into their homes, and treat them like family instead of greeting the newcomers with fear. Um, they're not preparing for war and they're not guarding their resources. Notice the exact language. They, quote, treated each other like they were all members of the same tribe. Hospitality is powerful because it is a deliberate act of community creation. The air spirit people are adopted into this new family. Also, the color imagery deserves our attention because everything is blue. The birds, the houses, and animals. Earlier, each could and direct carried symbolic meaning for us. And we know when colors show up in literature, it's important. So if you want to do a little bit of digging into the significance of blue and Navajo culture or in general, I would encourage you to do so. This entire new world possesses its own identity through shades of the same color. And so this reinforces the idea that every world has its own character and its own purpose, and it will fold into the worlds that evolve as this story evolves. Return to the second world text for a moment for the last sentence of that paragraph. But on the night of the 24th day, one of the air spirit people approached the wife of the Swallow Chief and wished to sleep with her. So, with this sentence, everything changes in a single night. It's curious that the narrator doesn't spend time describing the individual responsible. There's no long explanation, justification, or excuse for this transgression. Instead, the focus immediately shifts to the consequences for the entire community. This is a perspective that can maybe feel a bit unfamiliar for us as modern readers today because we think in highly individualistic terms. One person commits an offense, one person should receive the punishment, in our view. But however, in indigenous worldviews, actions ripple outward. One person's behavior affects the entire community. So therefore, both harmony and disharmony are communal. If we do good toward harmony, it affects everyone positively. If there's one person that removes himself or herself from the herd to do things that cause disharmony, the consequences affect everyone. So even more importantly, this offense, it breaks the trust of this newly formed tribe. The Swallow people opened their homes, shared their resources, and called the newcomers family, literally, with that tribal language. So this betrayal violates hospitality itself, which is a key factor in this community's unraveling. So let's read what the Swallow Chief responds in the second world to this transgression. The next morning, after finding out what happened the previous night, the Swallow Chief said to the newcomers, "We welcomed you here among us. We treated you as kin, yet this is how you return our kindness. Now you must leave this world." After the chief told the air spirit people that they must leave, he said, "Anyhow, this is a bad land. There's not enough food for all of us. People are dying here every day from hunger. Even if we allowed you to stay, you could not live here very long." While in the second world, the air spirit people still had not changed their way of life, and they were not yet living in balance and harmony. So clearly, we see that the Swallow Chief's speech combines this sense of justice with compassion. He seems more disappointed than he is angry, it seems. He tells the newcomers they must leave, but then he says something unexpected. Quote, "This is a bad land." Quote, "There is not enough food." Quote, "People are already dying here." So, in other words, leaving means survival. Even if the relationship hadn't been broken, this world couldn't sustain everyone in it forever. So, the lesson here so far is that change sometimes comes from multiple causes, not a singular event. We love to pinpoint where it all could have gone wrong or all where it could have been better. But these multiple causes are moving the people from one world to the next. Our choices matter, and so do our environmental realities. So we have to balance those two things, and that's another part of the lesson. One sentence near the end of the passage requires another look. Quote, "The spirit people still had not changed their way of life." If I had to summarize the second world in a sentence, then that's the entire point of the second world section. They're physically moving upward, but spiritually, they're standing still. Though the worlds have not changed, while the worlds have changed, they, as people, have not. And here we are at the final paragraph of the second world. Read along with me. The air spirit people wandered upward, looking for a way into the next world. The wind called to them from the south. They followed him and found a slit in the sky that was upward slanted. The sky had a hard shell like the world they had previously been to. First man created a wand of jet and other materials, and the air spirit people flew or walked upon it into the next world. One by one, they passed through to the other side. Just as in the first world, the wind calls to them for escape, and they follow. Throughout Navajo thought, remember, wind represents breath and life, or spirit and guidance. The first man and the first woman, as we remember from episode 1, were formed from breath. And now breath once again becomes the force that guides the people toward the next stage of existence. Notice too that first man creates a wand from jet and other sacred materials. Throughout this creation story, materials like crystal, turquoise, shell, jet, and corn appear again and again because they are symbols of knowledge, protection, identity, and the sacred relationship between humanity and the natural world. Objects possess meaning because nature possesses meaning. Finally, the people once again pass upward one by one, which tells us that transformation takes time. It's not immediate. Every world requires effort, and every lesson must be lived through before another can begin. So, as we enter the third world, in our next episode, I want to do a little recap. The first world showed us that jealousy destroys harmony. The second world teaches us that kindness and hospitality require responsibility. Being welcomed into someone else's home carries some certain obligations. Trust must be honored, and community requires protection. One careless decision affects everybody. So, this creation story again is teaching us an ethical way of living. Though, yes, it is a story about origin, it's also teaching us how to treat each other. Our lessons entering the third world become a little bit more complex. The people are getting closer to becoming fully human, but they still have much to learn before they're ready for the world we know today. And so, thank you for tuning in to the AMLET podcast, and I'll see you shortly. Take care.